Giannis just had his 5th shoe with Nike drop in his signature line. I want to say it's been pretty average for the most part so far, if you ask me. But did the Zoom Freak 5 take it to the next level? Time to find out. Welcome back to our channel, guys. As you can see, today we're checking out the Zoom Freak 5. We're going to be breaking down basically everything that has to do with the performance on this shoe. We're looking at cushion, traction support, and a whole bunch more. But first, I do have to give a quick shout out to Hoop Sauce. They sent us out this really sweet backpack. You saw us just feature it in the intro. The designs are crazy. You got Record Park, some Venice, just all kinds of really nice stuff. If you want to get yourself one of these, just visit hoopsauce.com and you should, you won't regret it. Really nice basketball backpack there. But now we'll go ahead and get back to the shoe. And the first thing that we always talk about is going to be the retail price. These retail for $130, and that is going to be, one of Nike's cheaper shoe lines out there. You got the PG6 that's down there pretty low. Ja just started off his line with Nike. That's on the cheaper side, but $130 is definitely a good price point for basketball shoes. Kind of been matching up with his line so far. But as far as the Zoom Freak 5 goes, this is a spot where they finally made some changes. I do want to say, like, the Zoom Freak 4 and the 3 had a very similar build. They switched up like the design a little bit. They threw a strap on top of the 3s and then took it away on the 4s. I think they did a little bit of a reverse Nike swoosh. I said it a little bit in the intro. I haven't been a huge fan of like Giannis's shoes for how the performance goes, but the design on them has been pretty sweet. And these ones are going to be cool too. So if you look at the toe box, they have like a different feel. I don't even know what to call it, but it's almost got this foam-like feel to the upper, but it actually makes out the number 34. Thought that was a really cool piece. And then looking at this from the outside, I like how they split up that Nike swoosh. You got like the grain, gets that like speckled kind of chalk pattern on the front. On the back side, it's pretty simple. They just give you like the Nike Air, nothing really to pull off of there. So I honestly think this just looks like a nice, sleek basketball shoe. I don't want to say they did too much on some of his other models, but you could almost maybe argue it. I think these look sleek, but like I said, we're trying to figure out how they feel on the court. We're going to have to go to the court to check that out. Let's do it. All right, so now we'll go ahead and start breaking down how these shoes feel on the court. And the first thing I want to talk about with the Zoom Freak 5 is the cushion. And that's a spot that these do feel just a lot better than what I've been noticing on some of his previous models. That's one of the spots that I would say the Zoom Freak line, especially if you drop it down to his Immortality line. I almost can't even go there because those are just so stiff. I don't think they put a lot of cushion in those at all. But as far as his main line goes, they've been trying to front load the last couple of models. Like I know that's what they did on the Zoom Freak 3s and the 4s. They just had the front loaded unit. And it felt that way a little bit, but I just wasn't that impressed in the heel and just like the all around padding. But the Zoom Freak 5 definitely is going to take a step forward there. Like, the first shoe that it reminded me of is it's a little bit like the Luka 1 whenever you have that compression. Like your foot has a little bit of that memory foam feel, so it's not an uncomfortable feel. Pretty much good to go, pretty much good to play in. From the jump, you get very minimal braking time on this model from what I've noticed. And what the tech specs is going to be used inside is just another top-loaded unit. It's going to be springy. It's like some springy foam in the midsole too. That's just like the tech spec part of it. But as far as like the actual feel, it's going to be balanced. You don't get as noticeable as like a padding in the forefoot. You can even almost tell just from looking at the side. Like I know the Zoom Freak 4s had all those bubbles up here in the front. Of course, you also I just noticed they got the features for his family members. They pop that stuff on Giannis' shoes all over the place. But as far as the actual cushion feel, man, that is definitely better than it's felt. I didn't play in the 1s, but the 2s, 3s, and 4s, I'd say the 5s are probably the best in that spot. And then as always, we use our durometer to check out the midsole. These were reading at a 40. That's a little bit up from last year, but that doesn't really reflect because like I said, this is the most comfortable Zoom Freak model that I've played in so far. All right, so now we'll go ahead and move on. And now we'll take a closer look. It's more of just like the materials and the support. And I will say support's been like the calling card for the Zoom Freak line so far. Support just has been pretty nice all across the board, but we'll stay with the materials first because you have a few different things going on. I already referenced it a little bit. The toe box has this like interesting feel to it. I don't even know what you would call it, but it doesn't feel like it's going to be waterproof. That helps. But then you have more of a thinner feel to the side, and that's going to help with the weight. So these I actually found this kind of weird. The Zoom Freak 5 is going to weigh the exact same 382 grams as the Zoom Freak 4s did. So, I mean, you got the same exact weight, but I was a big fan of that. Anything less than 400 grams, automatically, you know, you're dealing with, you know, a super light shoe. The 3s were actually a little bit heavier, but 382 and 382 back-to-back years, that's actually really tough to do. I've never had a shoe line do that yet. But I always love the lighter aspect for basketball shoes. And Giannis's, like I said, Giannis's line has been known for support. And honestly, it holds true again here. So even with the lighter model, you're going to get some of those straps. It looks like you got a little bit of some straps. The laces feed through these loops. That's just going to help eliminate that lateral movement, no shifting around or anything like that. And these run a little bit lower, just a little bit lower on the backside than the 4s and the 3s that it feels like, but still you don't feel your heel or anything like that coming up. Support and materials is a spot that this shoe just checks all those boxes, no doubt. So the only thing left to cover is the traction, and that has been probably the weakest spot year after year on Giannis's line, you could argue, because I mean, I kind of bagged on the cushion a little bit. I didn't really mean to. Like, the cushion's been pretty average to slightly above, you know, so far. I just haven't been like super impressed yet, but the traction's been pretty consistently like not all that great. But I mean, you're gonna have, as far as the pattern, you can't get a very good shot at it. It's just gonna be a multicolored design, but it's like got Giannis's logo kind of worked into it, built down super small. But I will say the Zoom Freak 5s, it only took them 5 models. They finally figured it out. Like, traction is very squeaky this year, and it just has a ton of grip on the court. But like I said, we do our squeak test, they were making a lot of noise, and this is just like, you can tell just being out there on the court, this feels like a great basketball model. Like, there's not an immediate weakness that I could feel from playing in them. That's why if you go back and watch the full review, I didn't really have a lot to poke at, because I mean, traction is honestly what I save it for last. I was holding off on it because that can be the determining factor. If a shoe has no grip, you probably just can't play in it. But these, you don't have to worry about that. They're going to be sticky. I'm a huge fan. But to finish off with the sizing, like we always do, these run a little bit on the narrow side, and you get less than a half a thumb's width. So it is closest to the end. So you may be able to get away with a half size up, maybe even a full size up, depending on how much space you like to play in. But overall, the Nike Zoom Freak 5 is a great addition. Probably a much needed addition, in my opinion, to Giannis's line. Like, I mean, there's nothing to poke holes at. You got great cushion. It feels like the Luka one just to compare it to something. Nice balanced feel, not as front loaded. I felt like they tried to do that and it just wasn't really working. But the same thing, I mean, the shoe's going to be light. The support's there. Giannis has always had supported models in his line, never been an issue. And the traction came along for the ride this year. Definitely makes the shoe worth it. So what, at $130, go and get you a pair. You won't regret it. Thank you guys for taking some time to watch. Feel free to throw us a follow or a sub if you like this video. If you're interested in buying these shoes and you want to support our channel, just click the link here on screen, or we have links down below or in our bio. Feel free to check that out. But that wraps up this review. Until next time, I'm Landon from Shoe Wear. Peace.